My second project is even a little more complicated. I've talked a little bit to Leo about this, and I really came up with the idea when I was at the Gnome Rotary meeting. I believe it was in January. So my second project is trying to draw a parallel between the Iditarod dog sled race and Shelterbox. So my goal will be, again, to build awareness, only this time I'd like to raise $5,000 for Shelterbox. As I'm sure everybody knows, the Iditarod dog sled race itself started in the 70s with a big push from Joe Reddington Sr. And the idea was to remember the diphtheria crisis that struck Nome in the 1920s, 1925. At that time, many Alaska natives had come down with diphtheria, and the problem was trying to get the needed vaccine out there. The weather was such that flights were grounded, and it didn't seem possible to get the needed medication. So there were a series, it was kind of like the Pony Express. There were a series of dog sled mushers that carried the vaccine out to Nome, and it made a huge difference and saved many lives. So in the 70s, to commemorate this, the Iditarod was sort of born. However, it's sort of gotten away from its roots, and it now, to me, seems more about the purse at the end of the race than it does the commemoration. So my hope would be to draw a comparison or a parallel between that original trip to Nome and the work that's currently being done by Shelterbox. And Shelterbox is an international humanitarian disaster relief organization, and we do provide the temporary shelter so needed between the time of the event and the time that the infrastructure can kick in and supply a safe place to live. So far I've been lucky enough to talk to several people and get some ideas on how to go about doing this. Obviously, media coverage before the race is going to be essential. I'm going to try to work with TV stations and newspaper and other Rotary clubs just to get the information out on the fact that this will be a comparison. I'd like to include one of those little rubber bracelets that people wear with the story of the similarities between the Iditarod and Shelterbox so that they can go into the gift bags that all the mushers receive at the start of the race. Then obviously photography is going to be an essential piece. I met a gentleman who used to take photographs for the Iditarod, and I'm hoping that perhaps Rob would be willing to do some pro bono work in that arena. So getting in touch with some mushers, going out to the Iditarod headquarters in Wasilla. I also met a gentleman, his first name is Brian, who builds beautiful sleds and actually is currently planning to build several new sleds since I think 2 or 3 of the mushers lost their sleds in the Sockeye fires. And then, of course, all the photography needed in Nome at the end of the race. I'm also very fortunate because I am contracted as the psychologist working with the Nome School District, and the school district has very graciously said that they would allow me to fly out a week early and stay at their district office. So I will have a means of getting to Nome, a place to stay, and then a way to get the tent and equipment out there. I've worked with the JROTC in the past, and they are going to help me put the tent up and also just kind of check on it during the event. So this is fantastic. Daniel Slingsby, who is the current president of the Nome Rotary, has said that she and the other Rotarians will help me to find a place to put up the tent and also help with advertising. And Leo, you have been sort of my inspiration also in doing that. So the next piece then, of course, will be trying to work with media such as the Nome Nugget, local radio stations, and other advertising means. So that brings me to what I want to do. However, the big part is, how do I actually fundraise? What events can be set up, or what are means that I can actually go out and ask for money? That's probably the part of Shelterbox that I find the most difficult. With Rotary, it's sort of a dual-edged sword, as they say, in that for the most part, one is not supposed to go to Rotary meetings and ask for money. However, as a global partner, I'm allowed to do that, but it's somewhat awkward. So in order to get funds, which allows Shelterbox then obviously to put together boxes to be shipped to places such as Nepal and Malawi at this time, not to mention Syria and Gaza, we really do need to look at the fundraising aspect. So what I am asking you, my fellow E-Club members, is for your help and support in doing this.